2, we're taking a deep dive into the life and energy at Casa Fuzetta.
In the last 3 episodes, we met with Sana and Johnny, leaders of a wonderful full moon sound bath. In this episode, we return to meeting our lovely workationers, and in particular to meet Kate Sass, founder of Sass Wellbeing, a beautiful yoga studio in the heart of Yorkshire. I am on the rooftop with Kate Sass, who has been with us for workation time. This time with her husband, lovely, lovely Gino. But the first time you were here was, what was it, March 2024? Yeah.
Nearly 12 months ago, which has flown.
Yeah. And
Absolutely
you hosted
flown.
a retreat here.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in... Cool, I'm actually might have to streak off because we're sitting here, I think, what was it, 17th of February, and we're in gorgeous sunshine. We can't see a cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
You guys might hear the odd pigeon swoop, bell ring, dog bark, all of that, but we're
making the most of the sunshine.
We sure are.
Absolutely.
We sure are. But Kate, tell us, what's it been like bringing Gino here?
The best. I was going to challenge myself by coming here on my own, and because Gino knew I was coming here, and obviously he's heard a lot about this place from my retreat, he wouldn't let me come on my own.
Oh, bless him. Bless him.
So
I don't think he's going to let you come on your own again.
No,
either.
I don't think he is. So with some sort of strict boundaries in place.
Oh, okay.
Knowing that I was going to do some work while I was over here and have a little bit of time to myself, I am so glad that he is here with me. Yeah, it was a very good enforced decision.
No, he's an absolute sweetheart, and it's because he works with you at Sass, doesn't he?
Yes,
and
he is my business partner for nearly 3 years now. So we have a coffee house and wellbeing studio in a very cute little village in West Yorkshire. So we, for the last nearly 3 years, have spent most waking and sleeping moments together. So I imagine most people would expect him to be here with me because we are very much joined at the hip these days, which has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's us. We've been here for nearly a week. Don't really want to go home now, to be honest.
When we're seeing all the other workationers go home and then go, oh, look at all the layers that everybody's having to put on, and we're like, oh, can we take some layers off?
Yes, yeah. I think everyone's really quite jealous that we have got a few extra days than everybody else. And I think we will definitely extend our stay, hopefully, if we get to come out again this time next year. So Gino is currently doing some orders for the coffee house, which is normal routine for a Monday.
Okay.
But it's much easier done in the sunshine by the pool rather than sat at home on the sofa in -1 temperature.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I am finding that the prospect of going inside to sit at my laptop, I'm like, it can wait. I keep pushing it off. So it's good that he's working because I'm finding that the worky bit of the workation isn't really happening.
No,
Sorry, guys, for all of you who are waiting for a reply to many emails. I can see slowly building up, but I'm ignoring, knowing that...
You technically have been working all week, just looking after us and making sure that everything runs smoothly for everyone else. But yeah, having a workation is a good shout because I was originally coming out to either completely work or to completely be on holiday, and coming out here, we've managed to combine both like absolutely perfectly, and we've ticked some big things off our to-do list that have probably been on the to-do list for longer than they should have been. It's a really productive week, and I'm actually looking forward to going home with space in my head for creativity and some new ideas and some newfound self-confidence.
Yay.
So,
yeah, because also there was I saw the two of you working diligently away the other day downstairs, but then also really getting stuck in with some of the other guests here, either on your plans or their plans and ideas. And
that has been the highlight of this workation, was meeting other people who are in similar and different situations to us, but we've learned so much from each other. And I felt at one point, what can I give back to these people? They know so much, they are sharing so much. And I've found people have said to me, thanks for certain things. And I thought, oh, okay, so I have contributed.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
To other people.
I'm sure you have. I know you have.
That exchange of advice and guidance, and I think there's potentially some long-term friendships that have been made in just a week.
Yeah.
Is the absolute highlight of this week.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Because actually, and it's lovely because some of them, we had a mix this year of returners and newbies. So it's always interesting to see how that sort of energetic exchange, if you will, works out.
Yeah,
but,
very different strengths. You've got people who are unbelievable at finance and strategy and statistics and the serious sides of business, and then you've got people who are amazing at marketing and people who are just amazing at boosting your self-belief and self-confidence. There's been such a mix of strengths and knowledge that it's been a real week of personal growth, and I think that will translate into business growth for us.
Yay! I'm going to be super excited to see what happens. But we were chatting earlier over coffee, and you were telling me a little bit that actually you first spied Casa Fuzetta back in 2017?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me the story.
I didn't realise until last year, or it didn't come to the forefront of my mind again, that I actually knew of Casa Fuzetta in 2017, because I was sat in the hairdressers sorting through a load of duplicate photos via an app. And it was a few weeks before coming out on retreat here, and I was scrolling through the years and the months like you do, deleting, selecting the photos you want to keep, and I came across 2 photos of Casa Fuzetta and was like,
how did that happen?
Why have I got photos on my phone from 2017? And I was convinced that they weren't from 2017, and the app had got things mixed up and it wasn't working correctly. But when I looked at the date stamp of the photos, it was 2017, and they were screenshots from, I think, an article on the venue. And it was the time in my life where I had just started rolling out retreats, weekend retreats, and dreaming big, as I always do, about potentially hosting retreats at some point further afield.
Yeah.
So I must have screenshot these 2 photos to just keep in my phone as a reminder of this amazing potential retreat venue.
But I think it was also, you were hinting that, is that the time when you started vision boarding and
yes,
and thinking about how do I manifest the life that I want?
Properly manifesting, where I delved into the science behind it and the fact that there is actually something in manifestation, and it's not just a word for the woo-woos.
The spooky crew, as I call them.
The spooky crew, yeah. It is something that can actually be done. And I think that was the time of my life when I was taking manifestation a little bit more seriously, because I do believe I have manifested from a very young age, and I've probably only realised that in looking back, that was what I was doing. But yeah, back home with my closest circle, I am known as the Queen of Manifestation.
Yay!
And I am regularly asked to manifest things for people. Because
that's interesting. Can you do that? I'm not convinced. No. In my experience, the way manifestation works is it's very much about your energy and the vibration you're giving out.
Absolutely.
That then tugs on the little golden threads out in the universe, and you get a response sometimes super quickly. But
I like to think if someone asks me to manifest for them, I may be just putting a little line out there to the universe to support them in some way. But no, manifestation is definitely a personal thing that, again, is often thought about by the non-believers as you put something out there, a thought or whatever, and it's just going to happen. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that at all. It requires work and effort and patience and time. But I think I'm confident in myself that I'm okay at manifesting now. And I've got quite a few sort of
some stories.
self-proofs.
Have you got a story that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I've probably got a couple. The one that kind of opens people's eyes the most is manifesting Gino.
Ooh.
Gino has been in my life as somebody I have known since I was about 10, 12 years of age, when he had two friends on the same street as my parents. He would be seen within our area quite often.
Yeah.
And at the time, his parents owned a very well-known local pub that my dad used to take me in on a Sunday for lasagna and chips.
Ooh.
And I would occasionally catch a glimpse of Gino, but used to tell people that I was going to marry Gino Sassanelli.
Oh,
Because
from what age?
from about 12, I think it was.
Ooh.
It must have been 12 because he was driving. He's 5 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
And he used to drive a Polo, a Volkswagen Polo.
Oh, very sexy.
And he's a fan of the Polo. And he would drive up the road where I would be playing out with my friends like you do at 12. And even my friends would say to him when he got out of the car, "My friend really fancies you." Yeah. You know, totally trying to embarrass me.
Yeah.
But I knew that, yeah, it was true. I did fancy him. So one thing about manifestation is you have to take action. A couple of the little actions I used to take at 12 was I would knock on his friend's house when he was visiting in order to catch a glimpse of him with any excuse to take the dog for a walk, or I would offer to clean out his friend's work van just so I could
Be around.
be in the company of, or catch a glimpse of him. And then you do get to a point where you have to surrender, because at 12 years of age, a 17-year-old probably doesn't even know my name.
It doesn't even know you exist.
No.
Yeah.
And I think he probably did know I existed, but as that irritating girl that every time I drive up the road, her friends scream something at me. So you have to surrender that it's not going to happen at the age of 12. And I
wouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't either.
Just as well.
Yeah. Over the years, I would see him Christmas Eve in the local pub, and as I got older, 15, 16, you're not still a similar age. You're still not looked at in any way like that, but you would be seen as a little bit more mature because you would be out with the parents, this time having dinner in the local pub or whatever. When I was 18, our local town was the in place to socialise on a Friday and a Saturday night, and I spotted him across the bar in one of the bars in our hometown, and I have actually since found out that at the exact same time of me meeting Gino, that bar was owned by a now yoga student of mine, which I didn't know at the time. But she's become a really regular student and probably quite a good friend.
Yay.
So he strolled over to me and said, "Katie Hambleton, haven't you grown up?" And as they say, the rest is history. Yeah, so we just started getting to know each other. And I remember the first time he came round to my parents' house, a couple of weeks after that, he looked very different then as he does now. He had a shaved head and he was known, Gino Sassanelli, his parents owned the pub, and I can't say he was known in a negative way, but he was a local person that was known.
And parents in one way or another.
And no one's ever good for the daughter. I remember he knocked on the back door of my parents' house, and before my mum opened the door, it was a glass door, she looked at me through the kitchen and said, "Why is Gino Sassanelli knocking on our door?" And I was like, "Oh, that'll be for me." And then it's just gone from there.
Yeah.
So we'll have been married 14 years this April, and we'll have been together 22 years this September.
Wow.
So I've shared every important chapter of my life with him, really.
Yeah. That's quite the romance.
Yeah, so that's what everyone, when I tell them that story, everyone's a bit like, "Oh, okay, maybe she can manifest." And from there, there's other sort of little snippets of stories. Gino and I, since we've been together, have always wanted to live in a particular area not far from our hometown. We both grew up in Stalybridge, and we always wanted to live in a beautiful cluster of villages called Saddleworth, which was about 20 minutes from Stalybridge. Mm-hmm. So I used to take trips out there every weekend, take a bike ride along the canal, go for coffee, look in estate agents' windows, knowing full I would never really be able to afford a property here. But I was just doing the little dream-like steps. And then it got to a point 8 years ago where we were quite lucky in buying and selling houses as we went, like our homes. And there was potential that we could move out of the area because of the money that we had made on homes. We were in a really fortunate position. And when we actually looked at whether it could happen, we realised it could happen. And we managed to move to a beautiful village where we live now called Delft. We've been there 8 years. So that was another little thing that I had on vision boards as I grew up, went through the relationship with Gino. So that was another thing. A massive piece of manifestation was our business, Sass, the coffee house and wellbeing studio. Since I qualified as a yoga teacher 12 years ago, I always wanted my own studio. And between us, we always wanted to work together. So about 10 years ago, we actually looked at properties in the Lake District to open bed and breakfasts.
Okay.
And we found a gorgeous property with space for a studio in the garden. We did 2 or 3 visits, like we're really serious, talking about finances. We were about to go for this property and my dad got involved. And my dad's advice is always the best advice. And I think his fear translated into me a little bit. He was quite worried about a $750,000 business mortgage on a property for his 30-year-old daughter. And after a couple of quite serious conversations, we thought, okay,
maybe he's right.
Maybe he's right. And at the time, he actually offered Gino a position in his company. So everything worked out, and we moved to another house at the time in Staley Bridge that my school friends used to live in. And I always said, I want to live in one of those houses. And the day it came up for sale, I said, Gino, we're moving. One of those houses is up for sale. So it all just aligned not to move to the lakes and not have a bed and breakfast. So since then, I have spent numerous amounts of time searching for yoga studios. And we have got very close to taking on a couple of properties. And my gut has told me not to do it. So I didn't. One of them I actually cried over because I didn't go for it, and then it was rented out to somebody else. And Gino said, there's a reason you didn't go for it. Yeah. Surrender to the decision you have made. Anyway, it was a really good reason in the end because COVID hit.
Oh, yes.
So opening a studio just before COVID would have not been a clever idea at all. But the lockdown time opened my eyes to what I could do as a potential for growing my wellbeing business. I pivoted to online classes, and various classes during the week were pulling in people from all over the world. Saturday morning I would have 55 people logging in from all over the world, and I was in my newly spared bedroom studio. And it was building really well. I obviously wasn't making as much money as the previous year before lockdown, but my business was still going, and for that I was grateful for.
I was going to say, just surviving through COVID.
Yeah. If I didn't pivot to online like overnight, I would not have a wellbeing business now. So I had to do everything that I had worked for the last 8 years to keep it going. And about 2020, COVID landed. Towards the end of 2020, when we were starting to come out, the organisation I was working for at the time offered voluntary severance. They wanted to cut positions, so it meant that my 13 years of service there, if I was accepted for voluntary severance, I would also leave with a little bit of money rather than just handing my notice in and walking away. I applied for voluntary severance. This is the only decision I've ever made in life without speaking to my parents first, because I had a great pension, a great pay, amazing hours. It was the dream job. People were like, why are you leaving? You work 2.5 days a week. You build your own business alongside it. You're paid extremely well.
What were you doing?
I worked for local government, city council, various positions, but I'd got to a position where it was a very comfortable life and I could do the job really with my eyes closed. But
That's not necessarily much of a challenge, is
No,
it?
and that was the problem. It wasn't a challenge for me.
Yeah.
After a bit of a battle, my voluntary severance was approved, and I left the council in March 2021. And at this point, I'd got a whole new plan, a whole new vision board the vision board is still on my laptop and my phone to this day.
Wow.
Of building a business, building my retreats, building my community classes, and I had completely let go of the idea of a studio. Because I just thought, I'm surrendering, it will happen when it's meant to happen. For now, let's concentrate on the things that I can definitely do. And the day I signed off after my leaving meeting on Zoom, the day I turned my council computer off at home, because we were still working from home, I had a Facebook message off an old yoga student with a picture of a building that said, "Have you seen this building? It would make a great yoga studio."
Oh, there you go. There's the universe. That's what I'm saying. I always think
Surrender.
literally 24 hours. Once
Surrender.
you put it out there.
Yeah, this was half an hour after.
Wow.
And
That's good.
it was in a village that is 6 minutes over the hill from us, but it's an area I'd never looked at because I wanted something in my home village. I wanted something walking distance from home.
Yeah.
But I said to Gino, do you know what? I know this isn't something we're thinking of right now, but let's go and look.
Yeah.
So I applied to the owner of the property and said I'd like to have a look. Met with the owner's daughter. It was a derelict garage slash I call it like a derelict large shed.
Yeah.
And really liked her and got quite of a kind of a vibe and looked
yeah.
around the building, and there was minimal lighting, no heating, no toilets. It was a derelict building, no windows. She then had to go back to her dad because from what we could gather, they were seeing several people with different ideas or whatever. And we've since found out that our landlord, the owner of the building, is a real community person. Like,
Oh, right, okay.
he isn't just a businessman in the village. He wants the best for the village, and he does more than add to it. So we came away, and she rang us the next day and said, okay, my dad's interested in your plan, your thoughts, and he'd like to meet you. So a couple of days later, we went back up to the building for 2.5 hours. This was like first week in April. It was freezing cold. For 2.5 hours, stood in this derelict space, just chatting.
Pitching your vision.
Yeah, and I was quite guarded about sharing all my thoughts because I'd shared thoughts previously and they'd come back to bite me. So I was like, this is my initial idea, but I've got a lot more ideas to go with this. But I'm going to keep those close to my chest until I know this is definitely happening. And my feet were absolutely frozen. But we got in the car after this 2.5 hour chat, and Gino looked at me and said, just to let you know, this might actually happen now. He said, you might achieve your dream of having a yoga studio. So it's a big space. It couldn't just be a yoga studio. Very short story about, I was doing it all on my own. We were opening a very small coffee shop alongside the yoga studio where people would come out, pop the kettle on and have a brew afterwards. That would be it. And as the build started, the full renovation started, we realised how big the space was going to be and how potentially it was way too much for me to take on my own. And Gino quit his job. So my financial security blanket to pay the mortgage and pay the bills was no more. And we just said, you know what? We've always jumped all in with 2 feet. We've got to do that now. So he left his job. I had left mine. And Gino went and worked in hospitality for 4 or 5 months to get some experience. I did a few shifts for a friend waitressing in a cafe. And 12 months the build took. We opened Sass, which is what it is today.
Absolutely, from what all the stories you've been telling me over the last week, it's absolutely flying high. You've got an amazing community of people coming in every day.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky. We have an amazing team. It's not just you come out of class and pop the kettle on. We have a full team of front of house staff. We have 7 teachers in the yoga studio. We have a chef who is phenomenal. And an amazing supportive community. So yeah, we are so blessed.
And is there a new vision board?
I think
progress?
After this week, I need to just go back to...
And sit
with it, because there's a lot of new ideas and thoughts coming, and things have definitely changed over the last 2.5 years due to Sass. Our thoughts, our visions. It's been a very difficult sort of last 12 months, but from the start of this year, or maybe before then probably, from maybe the end of last year into the start of this year, things have lifted for us personally, fears and worries and concerns, and now we're delving into some fresh ideas and some fresh thoughts.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'll show you my vision board, but there's a picture on it that when I did it, it was going to be what I want a house to look like. And it's a picture of a mezzanine floor, and you're overlooking the mezzanine, and it's like a lounge and kitchen beneath with seating, and then a glass front. And it was only a few months ago that someone actually saw it on my laptop and said, "Oh, is that Sass?" And I looked and went, "Oh wow, yeah," because we have a mezzanine. When you look down over the mezzanine, it's a glass front in exactly the same triangular shape. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I think...
Yeah, and you hadn't even realised.
I hadn't even realised. And these are the things that, when it comes to manifestation, you don't keep hold of too much. You have to put everything down and be very specific. But then you don't bring out the desperation. You go, this is what I want. What steps can I move realistically towards what I want? But I'm also going to let the universe work naturally. I'm not going to force anything. I'm not going to behave in a desperate manner that I need something. I'm going to let the universe work with me, but I'm going to take tangible steps to achieve. So the day I decided I wanted a yoga studio, I started saving. It was £5 for a class back then, and I was saving the £5 notes and putting them in a saving account. And so when it came to opening Sass, we didn't need any external finance support. We didn't need any investment. I was going to spend my my 12 years of savings.
Wow.
Which I'm a bit of a squirrel when it comes to money, and I don't. Once I've saved, I don't like spending. And it was actually my brother that said, "What is the worst that can happen, Kate?
Yeah.
You lose your life savings." He said, "But that's it. You start again. You just build it again. It's just money.
Yeah.
Spend it on your dream, because that's what you've been saving for all this time."
Yeah, that's why you.
And he said, and the worst you'll lose is, he said, you won't even lose your whole investment, because you can sell things and get some of it back.
Yeah.
So,
wise words.
yeah.
Wise words from your brother.
Yeah, I have a very wise family. Stems down from my mum and dad, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, they sound like very good people.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Kate.
Thank you.
Yay. And hopefully we are going to see you back here again at some point, maybe in 2026.
I think so.
If not before.
Maybe if I can encourage my community to come and dip their toes into Olhão and see this amazing place that you've created here at Casa Fuzetta, but also, you know, the surrounding village that it's in is just... If I could live here, I absolutely would. You never know, that might be on our next vision board.
Exactly.
But yeah, we definitely want to return in some way.
Cool. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Perfect.
I really loved hearing from Kate about the difference between coming on a retreat and being on a workation. I particularly liked when she described how the workation gave space for really productive work and creative new ideas, and how it highlighted that it was a place of exchange of ideas, advice and guidance with them and the other guests. That was really inspiring.
And I just love the energetic mix between newbies and repeat guests and their different skills and approaches.
Yes.
And one of the key reasons why I was keen to have Kate join us on the podcast is that I'd seen a post that she'd put out a few months ago about her being the queen of manifestation.
And oh my gosh, she really is. She did not disappoint on this.
Now, our next episode is going to be the last in this season.
Sad.
Possibly not. the last of the Casa Fuzetta, the House of Stories. Our next episode will be our first venture east of Casa Fuzetta in Olhão, and we're going to go off and meet our friend Ana Enriques, founder of the Golden Web Retreat. And her story crosses time zones in more ways than one. You'll hear that her accent blends New York with Jamaica, and yet it's her Portuguese heritage that has enabled her to build a new life just along the coast from us, in the nature, on the outskirts of another wonderful fishing community called Fuzetta. No relation.
And as ever, we'd love to hear what you think of the series. You can find a dedicated email address in the show notes where you can send us any questions. And last but not least, we'd be hugely grateful if you subscribe to the series and help us spread the word by sharing it with friends and family. Até a próxima.
Até a próxima.